Has anybody seen the movie Woodlawn? Just came out on DVD. You haven't seen it? No, somebody has to have seen that, right? In here? Am I the only one? Lydia? That's it? Oh man, you guys have to watch Woodlawn, right? It's a story of Tony Nathan, who was an African-American football player in Alabama, and he was integrated into this school, Woodlawn. And it was one of the last schools to integrate, and of course there were a lot of racial tensions and things that happened. This is an amazing story, though. I'm not gonna spoil it then, since you guys don't know about it. But it was amazing what happened through him, through the football team, through the rival football team, and it's amazing. That's all I can say. So definitely, I definitely recommend it. Go rent it this weekend or next weekend or something like that. Check it out. But I don't know about you, but I love these true stories, and that's what it is. It's a true story. I love watching movies with these true stories. I remember watching Amazing Grace with the story of William Wilberforce and everything that happened in the UK with slavery and everything like that. And I don't know if you're like me and like those type of movies, but those are the movies that really inspire me. And I love watching them, and I always think, man, I hope I do something like that someday. You know, I hope I have this adventure someday. I love war movies too. And I'm trying to think of like a good war movie that's a true story. Rambo? Probably not. Probably not. I'm just talking about true stories though. You ever have any friends that you watch them on Facebook and they're doing this crazy adventure? Do you have any friends like that on Facebook, or is everybody pretty boring on your Facebook list? I went to school with a guy. He was in my grade. He actually got held back a year due to some things that happened, but he started off in my grade, and I followed him on Facebook, and I know him. And he actually climbed Mount Everest. And I was like, man, that is pretty darn cool. On top of climbing Mount Everest, he did it with one lung. Yeah, one lung. When he was in school, he had several bouts with cancer, and they ended up taking one of his lungs. And now he's climbed like all these mountains. He goes around speaking to cancer victims, and he's a motivational speaker. He's a corporate motivational speaker. He's written a couple books. And I even saw him a few years back doing the Ironman triathlon, which is where that thing where you swim 2 miles, bike 100 miles, and do a marathon. And he did it with one lung. You know, it's pretty incredible. The only thing that he doesn't have on me, the only thing that I'm not jealous of him, is that he's not married. You know, and I am married to my beautiful wife, Adelie, and he was voted, though, like the most eligible bachelor or something like that in this one magazine, so he's got that going for him at least. But still, you know, I love following him on Facebook and seeing his adventures. Like I said, he just wrote another book, and it just came out, and so I'm seeing all the things come in about that book and everything like that, and it's pretty cool. There's some things that I like seeing about this guy, and I don't know about you, but I think that even today, reality TV shows are pretty popular because we watch them and we see these people doing things, and we kind of wish we were having those same adventures. I'm not talking about the Kardashians or anything like that. I'm talking about like the Alaska shows, Alaskan Bush People, The Last Frontier. Anybody watch those two shows? They're really cool because you see these families that really take on survival, and they come together as a family and they overcome these things, and it's pretty awesome to watch those things. In fact, Lydia was saying that she'd like to go up to Alaska, you know, and visit these people, and I thought it'd be kind of cool to move to Alaska and try this on myself. They make it look really cool, and then you think about how cold it would be and all the snow, and I'm struggling in Ohio with just a little bit of snow that we've had this year, and so I'm like, no, there's no way. But I don't know if you're like me though, and you think, thank God, right? I don't know if you're like me, but someday I think it would be cool to do something like that, to go on an adventure. Here's the thing that I've come to realize though. I think there are a lot of people that think that way, and there are a lot of people that we spend watching everybody else, and we miss out on having that our own adventure ourselves. Do you know what I'm talking about? We're just content to sit on our couches and watch other people. Well, today, I want to invite you to go on an adventure with God. As soon as I say that, I'm like, that is the corniest line ever, right? Let's go on an adventure with God, right? It sounds corny, but the faith journey, that's what it is. A faith journey is an amazing thing, and I want to remind you of that, and I want to challenge you with this. What is your next step? Chew on that. Think about that. Ask the Holy Spirit to reveal that to you right now. Be praying. Start praying. Lord, what is the next step on my faith journey? That's what I want to look at today. All right? Now, before you can take that next step on that faith journey, we have to make sure that we took the right first step. And sometimes I think Christians start off a little bit wrong, and it kind of hampers them in this journey, in this faith journey. And I think because of that hamperage, that's not even a word, we're going to go with it. But I think because of that, a lot of us have kind of not changed much. We're kind of still the same person that we used to be, still struggling with the same things that we used to struggle with, and still dealing with that same old person. It's kind of like we decided to have this adventure, go on this adventure, but we haven't started out. We're just still where we're at. So we're going to look at that. There's some of us, though, that have started out on this adventure and we've kind of got going, but unfortunately, somewhere along the lines, we've pulled over, maybe at the side of the road to grab something to eat, and we're stuck on that sideline, or maybe we're just constantly pulling over instead of going where we need to do. So those are the things that I want to look at today, and I want to start back at the invitation, because that's an amazing thing. So I want to look back at that invitation that Christ gives to his disciples, and we're going to be looking at Matthew, and also I want to look at it from two different accounts. So if you would turn to Matthew chapter 4. Now, before we start talking about Matthew and his account, we have to understand who Matthew is and who he's writing to, okay? Because it's going to really help us out in understanding this. So Matthew was a Jew, right? One of the 12 disciples, a follower of Jesus Christ, and he's writing to other Jewish people. He wants to tell other Jewish people about his experiences and what happened. That's who his account is dedicated to. So now that we understand that, and that's important to understand because Matthew is going to assume that we're Jews and that we have this Jewish cultural frame of mind. And so because of that, he's not going to go into a lot of detail. He's going to assume that we understand things, all right? And so it's kind of interesting when you realize that and you read what he has to say. So Matthew 4:18. Matthew 4:18. One day as Jesus walking along the shore of the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, also called Peter, and Andrew, throwing a net into the water, for they fished for a living. Jesus called out to them, "Come, follow me, and I will show you how to fish for people." Verse 20, then they left their nets at once, and they followed him. A little farther up the shore, he saw two other brothers, James and John, sitting in a boat with their father Zebedee, repairing their nets, and he called to them, "Come, too." They immediately followed him, leaving the boat and their father behind. So from Matthew's perspective, Jesus shows up on the scene. This is their first encounter with him from his perspective, or that's what we would think from reading his account. He shows up on the scene and he's like, "Hey, come follow me." And they just do it, right? They just leave everything, leave their father, their businesses, their livelihood, their family, and they follow Jesus. Now, from my American cultural perspective, I'm thinking these guys aren't very smart. They're maybe gullible, naive, what's the word that I'm looking for? Irresponsible. What you were going to say?
Vulnerable.
Vulnerable, okay. Yeah. But do you see from Matthew's account, I mean, it's short. It's really short. I mean, if that's how Christ came to you, if he just came to your work and said, "Hey, follow me," would you follow him? It's an interesting thought. And here's the thing, though. I think a lot of us grew up in the church with that impression that Jesus just shows up and he says, "Follow me," and we just blindly follow. I don't know. I could be wrong. But that's how it seems to be. It doesn't seem like there's any room for questions. It doesn't seem like there's room to see who Jesus is. If you want to go to heaven, follow Jesus. That's kind of how it's presented to non-Christians a lot of times. And I think that's how we portray it. I mean, like I said, if you want to go to heaven, you better say yes. In fact, the church used to market it as, if you don't want to go to hell, you better say yes. Right? I mean, that's how we market it. That's what we say. That's what we said. And that's how we portrayed it. We didn't give people a chance to see who Jesus was and to experience him. And is that what Christianity is about? Not going to hell. Going to heaven. I want you to think about that and chew on that. Today we've gone away from that route, and I still think, though, we expect people to make a decision right away. Here's Jesus. Choose right now which way you're going to go. And that's what we do. Well, that's kind of like Matthew's account. Let's turn over to Luke, though. Luke. And it's going to look a lot different from Luke's perspective. And before we get into it, we have to come to who Luke was and who he's writing to. Now, Luke was a Jew and a disciple of Jesus Christ, right? No. Jew was not. Luke was not a Jew. He was a Gentile. The only Gentile that we know that has an account in the New Testament. That's huge. Why is that huge? Because Luke doesn't have all the cultural assumptions that the Jewish person does, and he's not going to use those cultural assumptions. Now, who's Luke writing to? I said he wasn't a disciple of Jesus Christ, not one of the original 12 disciples of Jesus Christ. He was a companion of Paul, though, and followed Paul around. But who's he writing to? Gentiles, right? And why is that important? Because the Gentiles would have been skeptical, cynical, more so than the Jewish people. So having that in mind, we're going to see a lot more information that Luke gives us. And that in turn is why a lot of people tell people when they're trying to decide whether or not they want to follow Christ, they tell them to read Luke first instead of Matthew, because it's written to us, the Gentiles. All right, so Luke, and he begins this account in Luke chapter 1:1 by saying, "Many people have set out to write accounts about the events that have been fulfilled among us. They use the eyewitness reports circulating among us from the early disciples. Having carefully investigated everything from the beginning, I also decided to write a careful account for you, most honorable Theophilus, so that you can be certain of the truth of everything that you were taught." So right away, Luke says, look, all right, I've investigated. Luke was very big on eyewitness accounts. I've gotten all these eyewitness accounts, not just writing, but what that I heard somebody say or anything like that, but I investigated. I put this account together in an orderly manner for you. All right, so we're going to see, as a result of doing that we're going to get a lot more information. So turn to chapter 4, verse 14. Chapter 4, verse 14. It says, "Reports about Jesus spread quickly through the whole region. He taught regularly in their synagogues and was praised by everyone." So Luke makes it a point that before Jesus calls the disciples, they would have probably started to hear about who this Jesus was. And the report was, Jesus is this teacher, probably this unconventional teacher, this unconventional rabbi, and he's amazing. People are talking about him. People are wondering who this guy is. There's a lot of buzz around this Jesus of Nazareth. And if you keep on reading, you see in verse 5 that there's this report that Jesus drives out a demon. Okay? Verse 36, "Amazed, the people exclaimed, 'What authority and power this man's words possess! Even evil spirits obey him, and they flee at his command.' The news about Jesus spread through every village in the entire region." So not only do we know would they have known that he's an incredible speaker, but his words have power. He speaks with authority. Even the demons obey him. So before they even think about setting out on this faith journey with this Jesus, they had an opportunity to explore and to see what this Jesus person was about. And chapter 4 ends with, "So Jesus continued to travel around, preaching in the synagogues throughout Judea." Man. All right, so here's what I want you to catch. All right, that sometimes the faith journey is portrayed in kind of this path where you just have to blindly follow it. But Luke tells us something more, and we learn a lot more from Luke. That when Jesus called his disciples, he gave them an opportunity to hear about him, to explore, to think, to ask questions, and a lot more is going on before he asked them to follow him. And if you read John's account, it even adds another dimension to this. All right, John's account, you read in that, and Jesus has called Philip. Philip's following him, and after a while following him, Philip communicates to his friend Nathanael, and he says, "We found him. We found the one that Moses and the prophets talked about, and he's Jesus of Nazareth." And Nathanael's like, "What good can come from Nazareth?" He's like, "I don't get that." And Philip says, "Come and see. Come and see for yourself." In fact, just before this, Jesus is talking with John the Baptist's disciples, and John the Baptist's disciples are questioning him on some things, and Jesus says, "Come, see for yourself." We miss that today sometimes in the church. That come and see, investigate. We're told to investigate. We're told to be explorers. Instead of just kind of blindly closing our eyes to see, we're told to check it out for ourselves, and that's where we need to get back to. All right, and how do we do that? How do we offer that to non-Christians? We invite them to go through the scriptures with us. It seems like a lot of times we say, you got to come to Jesus, and then, start reading this. And the truth is, you got to start reading this. Let God reveal himself to someone, or hear about it. Give them the opportunity to ask some tough questions. Do you know how many non-Christians have tough questions? Like, if there is a God and he's good, then why is all this suffering in the world? That's a tough question. And we kind of shy away from those tough questions, and we don't want to talk about those things to people. And so people don't get a chance to explore. We don't get a chance to explore. We need to allow people to ask those tough questions, though. Because when they do, it's when they get to experience Christ through the scriptures. And amazing things happen. Turn to chapter 5, Luke chapter 5:1. This is where we're really going to be able to compare Matthew's account to Luke's account. Luke chapter 5, verse 1. One day as Jesus was preaching on the shore of the Sea of Galilee. So right away there, we have Matthew's account that says Jesus was walking on the shore of the Sea of Galilee. Luke adds, though, that he's preaching, right? So we get a little bit added dimension. Then it says, great crowds pressed in on him to listen to the word of God. Jesus noticed 2 empty boats at the water's edge, for the fishermen had left them there and were washing their nets. Stepping into one of the boats, Jesus asked Simon, its owner, to push it out into the water. So he sat in the boat and taught the crowds from there. So picture this scene. You've got Jesus sitting in this boat, speaking to this large crowd. The water would have been a natural way to just amplify his voice. And you've got Peter and probably Andrew in that boat, and they're just observing Jesus. They're seeing, they're exploring what this guy is about and what he's teaching. And then check this out, verse 4. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, now go out to where it is deeper and let down your nets to catch some fish. Master, Simon replied, we worked all night and we didn't catch anything. But because you say so, I'll let down the nets. Verse 6, at this time their nets were so full of fish, they began to tear. A shout for help brought their partners in the other boat, and soon both boats were filled with fish and on the verge of sinking. When Simon Peter realized what had happened, he fell to his knees before Jesus and said, "Oh Lord, please lead me."
I'm too much of a sinner to be around you. For he was awestruck by the number of fish that they had caught, as were the others with him. His partners, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, were also amazed. And Jesus replied to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you'll be fishing for people." And as soon as they landed, they left everything and followed Jesus. Now, I don't know about you, but it makes a lot more sense why these guys followed Jesus than Matthew's account. Matthew wasn't wrong. He just took some things for granted that we would know and understand and everything like that. I don't know about you, but this faith journey doesn't seem too corny either. Seems like something amazing that we could be a part of. But when I look at this, I see that the disciples had a chance to learn, explore, see what Jesus was about. And don't miss this, on top of everything, they had a chance to personally experience the power of Jesus Christ. That's huge. That is huge. I think there's people out there that have come to Jesus taking on this name Christian, but haven't experienced that. For whatever reason. They haven't had a chance to explore and ask questions. Who is this Jesus? Should I really follow him? Maybe at one time in America's history, it was kind of culturally acceptable and expected for you to be a Christian, right? We're moving away from that, and it's becoming the opposite way now. But at one time, it was that way. Maybe at one time, too, you were raised in a Christian home. And you just always came to church, and so you just considered yourself a Christian. It scares me to think, though, there's some people who haven't experienced Christ, haven't experienced him, haven't researched, haven't explored and looked at who he is. I found myself in a similar place myself. Somebody came up to me and said, "Why do you believe in God?" I was in my early 20s. I didn't have a clue why I believed in God. No clue whatsoever. I was just raised in the church. And that's just what happens. I can answer them. But that caused me to explore, to look at Jesus. Is this a person I want to follow? And I experienced Jesus. Somebody asked me that today. Why do you believe in God? I've experienced Jesus Christ. He's radically changed my life. You know, you see that experience with Peter, right? When he falls down at his knees and he's like, "Get away from me." You guys know what I'm talking about, I hope. When you've experienced Christ, that's your proof. You've experienced him. Don't forget that. There's some people, though, that haven't. Where are you at on your faith journey? Maybe you've never experienced him. Maybe that's your next step. To explore, to read the Word, to see, and allow God to experience, allow God to reveal himself to you. Where are you at? Can I challenge you with that? I know I'm talking to some people that have been coming to church for a little while, maybe a long while, and you've learned a little bit about Jesus. But can I challenge you with that, to be an explorer? That thing that you struggle with, maybe. Maybe that question, maybe it was that question that I mentioned a little while ago. Don't let that hold you back. Don't feel like you cannot express those questions in church. We welcome those questions. Jesus Christ welcomes those questions. Ask them, please. There's other people wondering, how can a loving God allow evil and suffering to exist? But here's the thing that I've discovered. You know, when people have asked those things, I will talk to them about it. I will give them things to look at. And you know what happens? They don't. They don't read that book. They don't search for the truth themselves. I don't know if they're scared that they might not find a good answer. I don't know if they're just too lazy. That's usually how it's been with me, you know. But take that next step. What are you dealing with? What are you wondering? Take the next step and explore. Look at things. Don't let the questions get in the way of your faith journey. Don't let it derail you. Don't let it hold you back. People tend to hide behind these questions because they're scared. You know, like I said, the church welcomes them. Remember Doubting Thomas? You know, he didn't even believe Jesus rose from the dead, right?
He wanted so much proof.
He wanted proof, yeah, and he got it, didn't he?
Yep.
You know, don't be afraid to ask those things. Don't be afraid to doubt. Allow your doubt, though, to influence you or to motivate you to search for the truth. And I've seen so many things here lately where people have asked me questions since I'm a pastor. You know, that the first time you're asked those things, you're like, oh, I don't know, that's a good question. You know, but it forces you to search for the truth. And it's been an amazing journey, and it's so amazing the things that you can discover. You know, does Christianity borrow from other religions? That's a popular thing that's coming back today. It was popular in the early 1900s, but that's what non-Christians are wondering. And Christians tend to steer away from those questions, but we need to embrace them. You know, that's the way of Christ, to be explorers. Don't let something hold you back. What's your next step? Everyone, every Christian should make a commitment to be a lifelong explorer. When we were going to Bible school, that was what we were told. Constantly explore, constantly strive to go deeper. If you don't, you're going to get stagnant and you're going to burn out. It's the same thing with us. With every believer, we have to constantly strive to go deeper. We can't just stop and be happy with where we're at. And like I said, I found that exploring is exciting. It's exciting learning things. It's exciting being able to share those things with other people. You know, have you ever heard something that just blows your mind and you can't wait to tell everybody, tell somebody else about it? You know, get into that mindset, get into that frame of mind where we're all about that. Is your faith stagnant right now? Is it stagnant? Are you just, man, I wish there was something more? Are you hungry for something new? Let it motivate you. I was listening to a sermon by this pastor, and that's a way to get some good stuff, learn to listen to other people's sermons and everything like that. But it was exciting because he was talking about this book that he read called Unoffendable God. And he was saying that, you know, in this book he learned that Jesus was never personally offended by anyone. And I was like, wow, that's interesting, you know? And let me read what he said. The pastor said, "For all of my life I've been offended by a particular kind of person. The person who bullies others, who torments the helpless, the person who intimidates those who are weak, the person who victimizes the defenseless. As you know, when it comes to people like this, I'm looking for a fight. I'm afraid this is something that I've passed on to you, but I can see now that I have shown very little grace to this type of person. I have too often behaved like Peter in the garden, and with noble intentions I pull out the sword and I take off an ear, determined that I'm going to set things right and I'm going to fix things. And Jesus took time to tenderly reattach the ear. And so God has been teaching me, and I feel very free and at peace, that God can be trusted to set things right. I am beginning to understand Romans 12:19, where God says, it's mine to avenge and I will repay. So God is teaching me that more often I need to back off, put away my sword, and stay out of his business. As I grow older," he writes, "I am determined to show more love, patience, and grace in the face of offense and injustice." Isn't that awesome? Here's a guy who's a pastor for 40 years. Not only that, he's a theology teacher, and he's just learning something. He's being challenged by something. What if we all started learning things and being challenged by things and we shared those with each other? Wouldn't that be cool? Man, I love my Sunday morning small group. You know, I'm supposedly the teacher of that, but I come into that and oftentimes I'm the one learning things from other people. Get a part of a small group, a group where you can talk to people, share your doubts, wrestle with things together. I mean, we're supposed to be doing that in community. It's just an awesome thing, you know. Turn to Hebrews 5:12, though. Can I beat on you for a second? Hebrews 5:12. Let me get serious. Do you know that the Hebrew writer rebukes Christians who don't go deeper? Rebukes them. Check this out, Hebrews 5:12. You have been believers so long now that you ought to be teaching others. Instead, you need someone to teach you, again, the basic things about God's Word. You are like babies who need spiritual milk and cannot eat solid foods. Teens, some of you have been here a long time. Sometimes you think as a teenager that it's okay. You know, I'm just a teenager, I'm here to learn, I'm here to be fed and everything like that. You should be teaching. You should be pouring out into other people's lives. You've been here long enough. Christians out here, some have been here 40 years. And you're still sitting here being spoon-fed like a little baby. Right? Well, you know, God hasn't called me to do that. No, He has. He has called you to pour out into other people's lives. He has called you to be mentors. He has called you to invest. What are you doing? Are you retired? Find somebody to pour out. Something that God was kind of sharing with me, sometimes we are teachers and we are doing these things, and we want to stay in that role instead of passing it down and passing it on, and not allowing other people to have that opportunity. We need to encourage people to grow. We need to help them grow. It's like discipleship. We don't disciple, for the most part. We're called to be discipled and to disciple, yet we're not willing to do that last part. And the writer of Hebrews calls us babies. We want other people to spoon feed us, Pastor Doc, feed us. You know, daggone Pastor Doc, I wish he'd give me some meat. That's what I say. I need some meat to chew on. I'm relying on him. Why am I relying on him?
That's why I enjoy the teen class, because at any moment in time we could ask Jody or Pastor Doc if we can teach, and most of the time they'll allow it. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. Pour out into other people. Find a friend that doesn't know Christ. Find a friend that does know Christ, though, and sharpen that iron against your own iron. Do that. Invest. We've been at this long enough. A lot of times we're stuck in spiritual ruts because we're not willing to go further. And I think why do we not go further? Why are we not willing to pour ourselves out into other people? And I think it comes down to we're scared about the questions that they may ask. That's one thing. Well, what if somebody asked me about the doctrine of hell? What if somebody asked me about this or that? You see, though, if we had the mindset where we were explorers and we looked for those questions and we got excited about those questions because it produced in us a desire to find the answers, we wouldn't be scared of those questions. I mean, I remember being with the teens and having a day where they could ask any question they wanted. Talk about scary. You know, I remember Shonda saying, you know, what are the different layers of heaven about? And I'm like, I don't know. You know, as a pastor, there are a lot of things that I don't know. You don't have it all together when you're a pastor. You don't have it all together. That's okay. Be an explorer. Let it motivate you to search for the truth. Don't shy away from that. If somebody comes up to you and asks you a question, I don't know. Would you want to look for it with me? Do you want to go through the Word and see what the Bible has to say? Maybe we can ask this other person too to get their input. Maybe we can do some research. I mean, let it motivate you. It's exciting. Luke 5:4. Luke 5:4. Sometimes the next step doesn't involve a spiritual question. Sometimes it involves an area of your life. You see this with Peter in this passage. A faith journey involves personal involvement. It goes from exploration to getting involved. Luke 5:4. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Now go out where it is deeper and let down your nets to catch some fish." So Jesus asked Peter to go out a little bit in that deep water and cast his net. Now, Peter has a choice to make. Am I going to do it? Because up until this point, he's an observer. But now he's suddenly invited into the story. And I tend to think Peter's like me, or I'm like Peter. I guess I'm like Peter. You know, a little bit cynical, maybe a lot cynical, a little bit skeptical. He's probably thinking, it's not the right time of day, Jesus. That's not a good place to fish over in that deep water. And we've been trying it all night, and we caught nothing. You know, I'd really just rather go home and get something to eat and just take it easy. I mean, that's what I'd say. That's how I'd be. But Jesus is like, you done it your way, try it mine. And so Peter becomes an explorer. He gets personally involved. He tries it out, and he's amazed. That's where we need to get. That's what we need to do. He takes one area of his life, and he entrusts it to Christ. What's your next step in your faith journey? Maybe you have this area in your life that you've constantly been struggling with, that is tearing you down, that you don't know what to do with it. Maybe it's time to turn it over to him and to entrust it. Maybe it's not going to make any sense to do that, what Jesus wants. He wants me to do what with this? That I'm supposed to forgive somebody that's wronged me? You've been doing it all this time, though, with your own power, with your own strength, your own way. And has it done anything? Have you gotten anywhere? Maybe it's time to trust him. Maybe that's the next step in your faith journey. Peter says, okay, since you said to do it, I'll do it. Can I challenge you with that? I'm challenged by that. Okay, Jesus, you said to do it this way. I'm going to do it. That's an awesome challenge. Maybe it's your marriage. Maybe you, as a husband, is called to love your wife unconditionally, sacrificially. Maybe your wife isn't worth it. Maybe your wife is a total nag. Maybe your wife is the meanest person in the world. But maybe you'll say, you know what? You call me to do it. I know Jesus is not going to work, but because you said to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it out. I'm going to try praying with my wife. I know this is going to go badly, but I'm going to try it. Maybe you're a wife, and you're called to respect your husband. You're like, if there was anything to respect, I would give him respect, right? I know that if I show this guy respect, he's just going to run all over me, take it for granted. It's not going to change anything, you know? But since you said it, Jesus, I'm going to show him respect, even when he doesn't deserve it. I don't think it's going to work, but I'm going to do it. What is the one area in your life right now where you need to take that next step and turn it over to him? I want to challenge you with that, to take the next step, whatever that may be. I'm going to pray. I want to give you an opportunity to come forward. And maybe you want to come to the altar because you want somebody to pray for you. Maybe you just want to work something out yourself, whatever that next step is. Maybe you can just kneel down at one of these things or kneel down over here. Coming to an altar is all about humbling yourself, getting away from the pride, getting away from the selfishness. And that's something that we need to do a lot of times to take that next step. So I'm going to give you that opportunity to take the next step and see what God is going to do in your life. Maybe you're somebody with money issues. Or maybe you're somebody with a lot of money, but you don't want to share it. You don't want to give it away. You don't trust the church, you know. Maybe you're the person, like I said earlier, that has been wronged, deeply wounded, and there's no way this person deserves your forgiveness. No way. And you really don't even want to forgive them. But maybe you'll say, you know what? I'm going to try it your way. I'm going to do it. Maybe it's a situation with work. Maybe it's a situation with a family member. I don't know what it is. But I want to give you an opportunity to respond, to lay it down, and to try Jesus' way of doing things. Maybe God is asking you to surrender everything to him and to be sanctified and to be set apart. Lord, I really don't want to go over this last area to you. I really enjoy hanging on to it. I don't know. But I'm going to surrender my whole entire life no matter what. You want me to speak to somebody for Christ, for you, I'm going to do it. Whatever that entails. It might be absolutely ridiculous in your mind, but turn it over to him. Maybe you don't know Christ. Maybe it's time to come to know Christ. I want to be very careful here, because I don't want to get you to question your faith. All right? So listen to what I say. All right? Because some people, we come to church and we started this faith journey, or we thought we started this faith journey through an invitation or a response to an invitation. Somebody stood up and said, invite Jesus into your life. Invite Jesus into your life. I want to challenge you, though. I don't think that's how it works. I don't think Jesus wants to be invited into your life. It might sound blasphemous to you guys, but your life is messy. Your life is a lot of crazy things going on in your life. Probably a little bit boring to Jesus. I don't see Jesus coming up to Peter, and I don't see Peter saying, Jesus, I want you to invite you into my life. Instead, I see Jesus coming up to Peter and he says, follow me. That's the invitation. And you see how in America, we invite Jesus to be a part of our life. In reality, Jesus invites us to lead our lives. Jesus says to count the cost. Count the cost. Do you want to follow me? Think about it. If you want to follow me, you're going to have to lay down your life. The call to follow Jesus Christ is a call to die to ourselves. Not in American Christianity, but in a biblical Christianity. That's what it's about. Don't invite Jesus into your heart, into your life. I know where that comes from, with Jesus knocking on the door of your heart. I understand that. And that's how I came to know Christ. I don't question that, so I don't want you to get questioning that. But it's a little bit off. We need to have a little bit different mindset. Because Christ says, follow me. Would you stand with me? If you need to pray, if you want somebody to pray with you, come to these altars, the actual altars. If you just want to maybe work something out with God,